The only woman who can pull a rabbit out of a hat, save the universe before lunch, and still make it to her evening magic show without smudging the eyeliner. Zatanna Zatara, the spellslinger supreme, the top hat titan, the tux-wearing tempest of trouble for every 2-bit sorcerer who thinks they can hang. She doesn't need gadgets, she doesn't need backup, she just says a sentence backwards and the laws of physics file a formal complaint. Prepare yourselves, because the spotlight's on and Z always finds a way. Let me just be upfront here. I love the DC and Vertigo magic world, or magic side of comics in general. I don't know what it is, but the Constantine show needed to not be canceled. I love Keanu and all, but that just wasn't Constantine. Cool things in that movie, cool stuff. Keanu's great, but I am dying to see Zatanna and Constantine and a Justice League Dark movie, or just, I don't know, just anything live action with those two would be, just perfection. I'm going to do my best to keep my fanboy stuff to a minimum in this video, but you're here because you want to know who the heck Zatanna is. To understand Zatanna, we have to go all the way back to her first appearance, and it may surprise you where she started and how true to her origins she stayed over the years, or not so true. She first appears in the 60s Hawkman title. Yeah, I know, I didn't expect that when I found out. I didn't know that's where she first appeared. I knew she was around there, but I didn't know she was in the Hawkman book of all places. And like all 60s comics, some are hit or miss and a bit clunky. I mean, just try reading the first couple Spider-Man issues and you'll see what I mean. Or even this early Hawkman book, of course. Zatanna appears in a 2-story issue, so the first half is where we actually get a look at Zatanna, the other half has nothing to do with her. The story goes like this. Hawkman issue 4, The Girl Who Split in Two. The story opens in Midway City, where 2 completely unrelated and baffling artifacts have suddenly shown up on display in the local museum. A Shang Dynasty statue from ancient China, and a Celtic ceremonial cup from Ireland. No explanation, no provenance, just boom, they appear like magic. See what I did there? This immediately piques the attention and interest of Carter Hall and Shira Hall, also known as Hawkman and Hawkgirl, because this is what they do. Strange relics equal trouble. So they split up, each takes one artifact and rockets off to investigate its place of origin. Honorable mention here, because I don't think anyone appreciates how well the Justice League animated show did for Shira. I'm sure there's some videos out there about this, but even the mask, you can see how they blended this original Hawkgirl mask and the more modern 80s, 90s vibes into their design and still made it their own. I just love the animated series. That's all this real aside was about. So Hawkman flies to China, tracing the Shang statue to a crime scene, and gets tangled up with local crooks and mystery. Meanwhile, Hawkgirl heads to Ireland, doing the same thing with the Celtic Cup. Standard detective work turns into some globe-trotting beatdowns of criminals on both sides of the world. So far, this feels like a Hawkman adventure, until the strangest clue of all turns up. And keep in mind, this was written in the 60s, and as such, certain terms and artwork and things are a bit unfortunate. At both locations, totally independently, each Hawk person discovers the same thing. A strange immobilized girl in a magician's costume, top hat, tails, fishnets, all the classic stage magic flair, but she's frozen and babbling nonsense that sounds like gibberish. Hawkman sees her in China. Hawkgirl sees her in Ireland. Same clothes, same condition, same odd helplessness. She looks like a statue. And, of course, trust the Silver Age logic, these clues clearly must be connected. And they, the Hawk people, are the heroes to figure it all out. I don't really know what to call them other than Hawk people when I say that, but it just feels right. But first, to the ship, the spaceship, rocket, the Hawk rocket. I never really knew that they had one of these bad boys, but man, look at that thing. So they head up to their Thanagarian ship. Both heroes decide the only way to make sense of this is to bring their respective halves of this woman to the ship, and the first step is to analyze what each version of the woman is saying by writing down her confusing speech. So they rendezvous aboard the ship, the Thanagarian star cruiser, orbiting Earth, setting up one of the most memorable Silver Age Zatanna scenes. 2 identical paralyzed versions of the same woman, muttering the same speech in a ship's lab. At first, the ship's high-tech instruments can't even figure out what's wrong with them. But again, the anomaly of her speech. 2 halves are speaking fragments of language that only make sense when combined. This really feels very Adam West Batman level detective work, but we're with it. So the Hawk people do what any rational superhero would do. They physically push the 2 halves of the woman together, because they did that with the language, and the language meant, oh, they're saying something, and oh, what does it say? I need to be pushed back together so that I can be a person. And like magic, poof, 2 halves merge into one fully conscious, coherent woman. And not just any woman, this is Zatanna Zatara, the daughter of famed magician Giovanni Zatara. wearing classic magician garb. She speaks normally, no more gibberish, and reveals the wild truth. Her father has gone missing. She's been searching for him using magic. She got two vague leads, one leading her to China and the other to Ireland, so she cast a spell to split herself in two and investigate both at once. But the spell went wrong and left her half stuck, immobilized and unconscious in each place. Then, in a particularly comic book twist, she used the last of her magical strength to pop the two mysterious artifacts into the Midway City Museum, hoping it would attract Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Pretty clever plan, except for the part where she split herself in half and got stuck. So now you've got Hawkman, Hawkgirl, and Zatanna in a spaceship talking about a missing magician dad. Zatanna asks for help. The Hawks bring out a special device, a Thanagarian mind-reading analysis device that can pull information out of a person's memories or clues, but even that tool comes up empty regarding her father's whereabouts. And this is a low moment for Zatanna. She begins to believe that her father might be dead, but Hawkman, ever the optimist with history going back to ancient Egypt, suggests another possibility. Maybe Zatara isn't gone. Maybe he's just suffering amnesia and he's lost but alive. And he's not traceable because nobody knows about him, even him, because of the amnesia. That little bit of hope rekindles Zatanna's spirit a bit, and rather than hang out and chat more, Zatanna uses her magic to teleport away, driven still by the quest to find her dad. She does thank the Hawks warmly before she disappears, leaving Hawkman and Hawkgirl on their ship with serious curiosity about this new sorceress, and wonder if their paths will cross again. So this wraps up the first chapter, about half of the issue, titled The Girl Who Split in Two, and leaves us with a powerful first impression of Zatanna. Inventive, heroic, a little reckless with magic, but driven by heart. The rest of this comic, though it isn't about Zatanna, is kind of interesting, but it's, 60s Hawkman. It's just a separate Hawkman adventure called The Machine That Magnetized Men. That's what's on the cover as well. And that's about futuristic thieves stealing artwork using time travel tech and all that, but that's not about Zatanna. From this point in time, Zatanna's journey continues in other titles as she searches for her father, linking to stories across the Atom, Green Lantern, and later Justice League crossover. But Hawkman issue 4 is where it starts. What this does reveal is the secret to the Zatara family's magic, which is just really fun. The spells and incantations and activation phrases for certain spells and things, they're actually just English words backward. However, don't let this fool you into thinking she's just some casual stage performer who looks great and isn't all that powerful. Zatanna is one of the most powerful sorcerers in the DC universe. She's a performer with superhero lineage and a character who threads the needle between heart, tragedy, and overwhelming magical force. She's fought alongside the Justice League, rescued the multiverse with John Constantine, and steps into darkness to protect others, often at great personal and emotional cost. So, as we covered, she first appeared in Hawkman issue number 4 back in the 60s. She's created by Gardner Fox and Murphy Anderson. Zatanna enters the DC universe on this magical quest to find her missing father, a quest that spanned multiple titles and brought her into contact with almost every major DC hero of the Silver Age. What this doesn't give us is her true origin story in full, because it's just she jumps into somebody else's story. But Zatanna is the daughter of Giovanni Zatara. What's important here is that it is one of DC's earliest magician heroes, debuting all the way back to the first Action Comics run. Yes, that Action Comics with Superman. Zatanna's mother, Sindella, powerful sorceress from the magical Homo Magi race, is responsible for a deeper level of her power, making Zatanna more powerful than her father, though she often doubts her own magic. Without going super deep and into the weeds, Zatanna's mother was being used by a group called the Hidden Ones, and they started to tap Sintella's medulla jewel. This is a part of her brain which emanated a special type of magic and energy. Zatanna also possesses this medulla jewel, and Sindella feared that the Hidden Ones would soon start feeding off of her. Eventually, her mother would sacrifice herself in order to save Zatanna and her father, in order to save her own family from any potential threat from the Hidden Ones, because she didn't want Zatanna to be taken advantage of or hunted down for them. Z, as she's often referred to, has a loving but complicated parental relationship, and often is burdened down with trauma and responsibility, as well, many heroes are. She was raised in and around the stage magic scene, but also the complicated nuance between that and real sorcery. She inherits a deep magical bloodline and grows up to specialize in what is called logomancy, the backward spoken spells and activation stuff. Her powers can be a little broad, but here's a basic breakdown of the highlights. This is not super exhaustive, and this is not like the end all be all, but just to give you a little bit of a primer. Zatanna's magic is among the most versatile because it's rooted in magic and sorcery, which, that has almost infinite potential when you think about it. But her powers are best summed up as elemental control, teleportation, reality manipulation, healing, demon binding, time alteration, dimensional travel, and resurrection, with limits, which are often bound by the writer, of course, but there's nuances to this, but I thought it was worth mentioning. As for teams, Zatanna is one of the most interconnected magic characters in DC. We see that even from her first appearance as she tries to find her father, she pops in and out of almost every major DC title of the time. Here are the biggest teams and most notable affiliations for her over the years. First up, we have the Justice League of America, probably her biggest team affiliation. She joins them in the 70s around issue 161. She's often the team's magical consultant or expert. She's central in mystical crises, kind of like JLA Annual number 2. Of more recent years, probably where people know her the most from is Justice League Dark. People on the roster through the years have been John Constantine, Swamp Thing, Deadman, Wonder Woman, Detective Chimp. Yes, that's a real person. The Sentinels of Magic are another team she's been a part of, featured during Day of Judgment. Zatanna works with Phantom Stranger, Dr. Fate, Raven, Enchantress, the Spectre, a short-lived but really powerful team. One people tend to mention, which is an unconventional team of sorts, is the Seven Soldiers of Victory, written by Grant Morrison around 2005. This is a more grounded take, and it's Grant Morrison, so it's Grant Morrison. So if you either like Grant Morrison, great. If you don't like Grant Morrison, still read it because it's a good story. So as far as essential reading goes, here are the definitive Zatanna stories. And again, these are not everything. I just think these are worth mentioning, and if you want to get started, or if you haven't read everything, maybe one of these will pique your interest. With all of these, I always recommend reading where they first appear because it's really interesting. I don't think you need to read everything for a character. Unless you just love it, then go for it. But seeing where they started is really interesting. Zatanna's is very interesting too because for like 2 years, she's searching for her father and she's popping in and out of all these different books. And it's Silver Age fun, and I can't read a lot of Silver Age all the time personally. But every so often, stories like this are just kind of fun just to see them pop in and out. And sometimes you need a break from the heavier stuff. So with that being said, Zatanna's search, she's searching for her father and she's going through Hawkman, Detective Comics, The Atom, Green Lantern, Justice League. Next up would be her first Justice League of America stuff. We're talking issue 161 through 171, issue 206, 225 through 227, and JLA Annual 1 and 2. You get her official tenure with the League, you get stories about her mother, her tragic backstory, you get team-ups with Z leading the team against Dr. Destiny, and just classic depictions of her early hero stuff. Honorable mention for the Detroit era, so 233 through 261 of JLA, and Zatanna's roles and all of that. And I can't leave out Paul Dini's work on Zatanna. So his first run, so 2010 through 2011. I mean, if you don't want to start anywhere or you're on the fence about any of this, start here. Then enjoy the Silver Age stuff and then dive in deeper. It's just great. You can tell Paul Dini loves Zatanna and he gives us great stuff. This run really defines her voice, her stage presence, and her personal life. It's also very approachable, so I'd say if nothing else on this list interests you, the early stuff you just were like, meh, I don't really care, jump into this. Just give it a shot, get it from your library, get a used copy at a bookstore. I mean, heck, ask your local shop about it, find it, read it, get back to me, leave me a comment, tell me if you hated it or if you loved it. Justice League Dark from 2011 to 2015. I just love Justice League Dark. Not everybody loves Justice League Dark. Not everybody loves team-ups. I think Zatanna gets a lot of good time in these books, not as much as she probably should. And then my last must read, if you're at all interested in Zatanna and you haven't yet, read Zatanna and Black Canary Blood Spell 2014. I don't want to spoil it or anything, so just go read it. If you want a full story overview on that one, somebody drop me a comment. If even 2 people recommend it, I'll do it. And then last but not least, most recently, Jamal Campbell wrote a really nice series this year in 2025 that a lot of us feel like it got cut down or maybe forced to be shorter than it could have been. We won't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets some kind of continuation eventually. If anybody knows about that being continued and I don't know yet, please let me know. Or if you think it shouldn't be continued, I'd be interested in your argument for that. For some deeper reading, I highly recommend checking out the Books of Magic, the very first volume in 1990. I believe it's a 4-issue miniseries. It's just really interesting. It's a different role for Zatanna to play, and yeah, I think Detective Comics 824 Zatanna makes a little appearance. I love anything with Zatanna and Batman. I just think they have a great chemistry. And of course, Zatanna Everyday Magic. I mean, I may have said that the other Paul Dini work is more approachable. This might be more approachable. So maybe start with this. My very last recommendation is maybe the most like quintessential DC Vertigo dark magic vibes. Nothing is better than something from Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. And I think American Gothic checks the boxes. If you want to see Zatanna enter a bigger story, her and her father are both there in the ins and outs of the dark magic scene in the comics. I really don't want to spoil it here, but look up Swamp Thing American Gothic. It's around volume 2 or volume 3 of Alan Moore's original Swamp Thing run. Zatanna and her father appear starting in issue 49, but read the whole American Gothic chapter of Swamp Thing. It's worth it. If you're here looking for any kind of recommendation, it's worth it, and you like the magic stuff, of course. Just read it. But if you want just Zatanna, check out issue 49 and 50, I believe. So on to modern Zatanna. She has been featured in a modest host of DC animated projects over the years and a decent amount of comics. Her lore expanded notably in the canon to have childhood connections with Bruce Wayne, the Batman, obviously. And there's really good episodes from the animated series that feature this backstory and a will they, won't they sort of love interest while Bruce was learning from her father on his quest to master the art of escape and everything. But a good comic representation more recently, Zatanna and Batman's relationship in Zdarsky's Batman the Knight. This isn't a Batman video, of course, but if you like the Caped Crusader and you like Zatanna, or you're interested in Zatanna, it's worth reading the whole 10-issue miniseries that they have there, just to see the build-up and lead to their relationship and Batman's story while you're at it. It's not super expansive or super involved, but it's just, I don't know, it just feels right, and it feels nice, and adds some depth to both of them. So I've listed some of these recommendations in the description for easy reference, but thank you all so much for watching. If you have a character you'd like to know more about, or spotlighted here on the channel, or if you have a favorite Zatanna moment story, please drop a comment and let me know. I respond to everything I can, but yeah, thank you so much.